Here, let me share my screen. Okay. Somebody else.
I can see the agenda.
Great.
Great. Is there any public comment this morning? Any items not on the agenda that anyone would like to bring up? All right, let's turn to the minutes of May 4th.
Okay.
I'll move approval of the minutes.
I'll second it.
I just noticed at the very bottom where it says minutes submitted May 20th, it should say May 18th. So I'll make that change. And so that was a motion by Reed.
I read, yeah.
And second.
second. Okay.
And was the meeting really adjourned at 8:15? I just can't remember.
Approximately.
Okay, wow, that was early. Nice.
Yes. Yeah, it was like either 8:15 or a little bit after.
All right. Okay. Any other comments on the minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
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 I heard two.
I'm gonna abstain because I just got here and I haven't reviewed them.
Okay, thanks, Kim.
I think Carl just said aye, although I didn't hear him.
Okay, and
I did.
thank you, Carl. And did Eric say aye? Then we'll have 4 people.
Well, you yourself too, right?
Oh, that's true. Yep, aye. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, the minutes have been approved.
Okay.
All right, Reed Parker, I saw that you were on. Hi, I'm Laura Meyer.
Hi, Laura.
And if people could introduce themselves, if they have comments about Reed's request to place wood duck boxes at the Mud Pond Conservation Area. And Reed, would you like to go ahead and share some information?
Sure. So I'm on the Catamount Forest Committee, and last fall we started a project to put wood duck boxes on the ponds at Catamount. There had been some previous ones there. So we've been studying the effects there. We didn't get any nesting this year, unfortunately, but that's okay. Sometimes it takes more than a year to have the ducks be attracted to the boxes. We've been looking at ponds in the area and thought that Mud Pond might be an area that we could put probably no more than 2 boxes. But knowing that it's a conservation area, I wanted to speak to this committee before going out there and doing any investigation. So the project is run mostly between myself and my brother-in-law. He has been doing this for many, many years on ponds around Vermont. And last count, he had 92 duck eggs in his boxes this year. So it's this growing successful project. And so we would like to look at the mud pond area, look at where the potential would be to put boxes. We make them ourselves out of local lumber, and we would, like I say, probably based on what we've seen of maps of the pond, put no more than 2 and put them where people don't go and bother them. So that's the request at this point. At the bottom of the proposal, Melinda, if you could roll that up just a little bit, please. You can see these are at the ones that are at Catamount right now. So the 2 that we built, and they have an access door so that we go in and investigate whether there's been any nesting. We can clean them out, put no nesting material in. They're mounted on 2x2 steel poles so that they will, between the construction of the lumber and the poles, they should last for years and years and years and not fall over. Any questions?
My only question is how ducks manage to get into them. They seem a little, ducks always seemed unwieldy to me.
So these ducks, so the hole is really quite large. It's designed, ducks normally in their native state nest in hollow trees, at least wood ducks do. When we're trying, you can collect wood ducks, mergansers, and whistlers in these types of boxes. So this imitates what a hollow tree would look like. And believe me, they can come flying in at full speed, hit that hole, and then stop and nest and sit on the nest. We've observed them in other pond situations. And these types of boxes are quite common. The design is, if you drive out towards Mallett's Bay along Route 7, Route 2, and then out into the islands, you'll see them. The state of Vermont manages projects like this, where they have quite successful duck nesting.
And the ducklings themselves are precocial, so they're ready to go.
Once they've hatched and they're ready to go, we call this a luxury hotel. We actually have cut grooves into the inside of the front of the box so they can help climb up like a ladder. And I've seen video of them they just fall out of the box,
plop.
Hit the ground and start running and head for the water.
Yeah, I
Sounds
think-
like a great project.
Yeah, I agree. And Reed stopped by the booth at the town fair, whenever that was, a couple Saturdays ago or something, and we chatted about it, and it seems like a great idea to me. Are you gonna have will you have any interpretive signs or anything explaining what it is?
We haven't yet. We're still working on that at Catamount. We're actually as part of Trail Day coming up. We've got some of the older boxes. We're going to use those for educational purposes. Some that had become dilapidated and we took down. We're trying not to put these near where people go. So you can see the one on the pond there is actually on the backside of one of the ponds where there's no trails. We don't want people going around and tapping on the boxes and disturbing any ducks. So we haven't put signs near them. This initial piece would be for my brother-in-law and I to go out there and say, knowing that that's a kind of a peat bog area. It's not like these are farm ponds where we have them right now. It's a different environment. We want to make sure we're picking the right environment before we actually set something up.
Yep,
So
that
at
makes
Mud
sense.
Pond, I do the Adopt a Trail, and there's one area where there's like a stadium area where people can walk out there and sit on those. And there is an unofficial trail that goes out to Mud Pond that people have tromped down over the years, but it's not easy to access that. And the other side is just a boardwalk. So really it's a raised boardwalk. So unless you jump off that and walk into muck, it's pretty difficult. So I think not too many people will be wandering to the boxes. Yeah.
But the interpretive signs are interesting to put one maybe where people do stand to explain what they might see out there as far as a box. That's a good idea.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I
stadium
mean,
could be good.
wood ducks, and they're really pretty ducks too.
Yes.
And they stand out amongst the other ducks that people typically see. So yeah, I can see, I would think people might be curious.
Yeah.
Reed, I did ask Andy, the Catamount Outdoor Family Center trails guy, to bring that one box over to the barn that had snapped off its post.
Yeah, I saw it there because we took 2 more down the other day.
Good.
So we have lots of old boxes in the barn right now. So I'm going to take bits and pieces of them and rebuild one for demonstration purposes.
Great.
Reed, has your brother ever experienced egg dumps where multiple females of even different species will come and lay eggs in the one box?
Yes. So that's quite common. He has
I'm in a
7
meeting right now.
7 boxes on Round Pond, which is in Mallets Bay, and or South Hero actually, and they will come in, and the initial female will actually raise multiple broods of different species of ducks.
Yeah,
So-
it's great idea.
Yeah, Reed, since I don't know anything about wood ducks, can you just give me an elevator speech about like what an interpretive sign would say about them? I just don't know about them, if they're because their habitat has been degraded, there aren't that many of them, or what the story is with them.
Well, I would have to think about what a sign would say. I mean, the duck populations have come back very well through different groups, including the big Ducks Unlimited, which is mostly a hunting, waterfowl hunting group. But ducks are in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions now. So there are a lot of ducks, and Lake Champlain Flyway is a good place for them. We see a lot of whistlers out there, which we're not trying to attract. They're more of a seabird species, which have moved into the Champlain area. But wood ducks are, as somebody else mentioned, are extremely attractive looking with their multiple colors, and not as commonly seen, although I've seen a lot of photographs people have posted this spring of wood ducks in various pond locations around Vermont. So I think I would have to get together with my brother-in-law and see what we'd want to put up for wording for a sign, and for all we know, we could have mergansers in there, which are another kind of nice looking duck. And hopefully over a period of time, start to see nesting.
That's great. And what kind of niche do they fulfill, in the pond? Like, are they it's just nice to have them there?
Oh, I mean, I think any species is part of the whole cycle of pond life. They're going to feed on small things in the water. They do become targets for predatory birds. I saw a picture last week of a raccoon that had raided a wood duck box. That's why we actually put, this picture doesn't show it, but we put PVC piping around the metal pole so other predators can't climb in, but they can become part of the whole food chain, both the ducklings from the perspective of larger predatory birds, hawks, and so on. And they also, are adding to the ecology of the pond itself by just being there. I mean, ducks can make a mess of a pond if you have too many, the same way geese do, but we're not trying to put 20 boxes up, and we don't want to overpopulate an area. So 2 would probably be the most. And then they do migrate out. They don't winter over here, this species. So they're going to go down to the Chesapeake Bay area. Then they're going to come back on the Northern Fly and hopefully reestablish themselves.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
when you do, or if and when you get to signage, Reed, I'd suggest, come on back in or send us some content. We'd be happy to work on that with you a bit, and perhaps we can figure out a way to fabricate the signage.
Okay, great.
I would think maybe some signage might be already available, with just
Yeah.
information like Cornell or something.
Yeah, I'll have to look and see what is available.
So at Catamount, we've frequently seen wood ducks, mallards, and hooded mergansers on the ponds there. So are hooded mergansers cavity nesters? Would they?
Yes, they would. Yes,
So maybe you'll get some of those.
yes.
That's
Okay.
neat.
Yeah, I did get a picture of a wood duck last fall on one of the Catamount ponds. So I know they will fly in and sit. That was kind of the instigation of, oh, there's a wood duck. We should put up some boxes, so.
How many, Carl, were there? Like 8 or 9 little babies?
Last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. We did. Yeah. I can't, were those wood ducks or mallards? I can't remember. I guess they
I
were.
think wood ducks. I think Bruce he was the
Yeah.
spotter of the wood ducks.
Yeah, we had a pair of kestrels start to take over one of our boxes this year, but then they moved out. So, because they were a cavity nester too.
Yeah,
And,
that's right.
but they, after going inside and making a mess, they left. So we checked the boxes out last week.
About 8 or 10 years ago, there were a pair of kestrels that successfully nested in one of those boxes, and got a picture of 2 of the chicks sticking their head out. That's really cute.
We don't need to make a motion, do we, Melinda? We can just kind of agree that this is a great idea.
Yeah, it's up to you.
All
Do
right.
you want to vote?
Yeah, let's just vote just so it's on the record.
I move we approve the installation of wood duck boxes
I'll second.
at Mud Pond. Do I need to say at Mud Pond?
Sure. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to erect wood duck boxes at Mud Pond signify by saying aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion has been approved. So Reed, thank you very much for coming with this. This will really be fun to go out there and look for them.
Good. All right. Thank you all very much. I need to drop off. I've got another meeting to go to.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Laura, the next item on the agenda, the applicant's not here, so I would recommend skipping on to the following item, which is DP 2105 Michaud Residential Subdivision. And then we can come back to the AP.
Okay, that sounds good. And is there anyone here for that DP 2105? Or will there be?
Yeah, so Scott Michaud and Carl Marchessault are here.
Okay, great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, sorry, I didn't see you. I can't see everyone. Hi, I'm Laura Meyer.
Hi.
All right.
Hi,
okay.
Laura. I'm Carl Marchessault. I'm representing Scott Michaud and Tom Weaver. I've looked at the report. Did you guys want me to say a little bit about it first, or?
Yeah,
So
go
if
ahead.
you would pull up, I believe it's sheet 3, or actually, well, that's the cover sheet, but if we could pull up, I think the one after, scroll down to sheet 3, I believe.
Okay. This one? Or
There's
do you want-
actually like
Yeah, here,
another
let me-
civil attachment. I think it's part 2.
Yeah. Oh, part 2. All right.
So we just did a project that you guys, that Wilson was involved with. And we're gonna put the little posts at the demarcation of the extremities. So if you zoom into that plan, there's these little red squares that represent posts, and they show up on a number of sheets.
Oh, yeah.
Can you go to the one that has the green, actually? Let's see.
Let's see what this
That one.
is. This,
Well, that was a
this-
good representation, but it doesn't show the area disturbed, but that's follows the area disturbed. But let me see here. I'll find the sheet. Well, actually, you'll probably find it sooner than I will. Oh, I think you
Okay.
had it there.
this area?
Yeah. So
Okay.
all that greenery, we got a note on the plan that says, they're mowing the field now, but I've talked to our wetland consultant. And generally, to get something like this permitted, even though we're trying to minimize our impact to the greatest extent and have a through road, which I believe, talking to staff pretty extensively, that's a really important component of this project. So we had it as a cul-de-sac, and then at the 11th hour, we went back in and did a complete redesign so that we'd have the road basically connecting out to, Meadow Run Road. So that green hatch that you see is basically all area. Says currently mowed field that will no longer be mowed as part of this project. So our wetland consultant, Evan Fitzgerald, he's very good. We've been working him for a number of years. We really like him. He delineated, he had the state ecologists come out and sort of bless, his delineation. And so what we're trying to do is minimize disturbance to the greatest extent. And unfortunately, it's hard to see, but it says, the wetland buffer impact. And then it's kind of pointing to those little squares. And I think in the final plan, what's the easiest is we'll just make those a little bit bigger, but those denote like a 4x4 post that we're going to wrap around the whole area to basically have a demarcation. Yeah, exactly. So that, people know it's there. And, we can put little signs on it. Like I know at CSWD, we recommended like doing a little 4x6 placard or something like that. But we're pretty open to ideas. I think in reading the Williston Conservation Commission report and looking at the end, I think looking at this plan just the way it is in the far right corner where there's some white space that we're not in the area that we're going up to the tree line behind that little pond that takes a little bit of the site. We could put something there. And in the central area, of the pond where the discharge location is, we could denote something there. And then perhaps behind unit 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, even though it's not up to the tree line, if you wanted, in addition to posts, maybe we could put in some landscaping because that's what you sort of indicate on the report. Although we're a little far away from the tree line itself. So we're open to ideas on that. We're not firm on anything. We just want to have a nice conversation with you folks this morning and discuss it. So that's in terms of looking at your report, it looked like it was pretty positive. That there's some wetlands, but like I said, we were trying to avoid to the greatest extent. And the class 3 wetlands were determined to be, limited functions and values. And our wetland consultant could probably speak a little bit better about, exactly what that means. But my understanding is basically, they're not connected to the class 2. So, our main emphasis is trying to protect the class 2 wetland. So that's pretty much all I have. I'd entertain any questions that you might have or any specifics on, why we laid it out this way. But we were given pretty strict orders, or not strict orders, but we were given kind of a concept from where we were at. We were ready to submit on something with a cul-de-sac that had less impact, but I think it's very important that we, make this connection to Meadow Run. So we took the guidance of the town of Williston and made that connection.
Can I just clarify that connection is because of emergency vehicles? Is that correct?
No. Yeah.
It's connectivity, I believe, but Melinda might be able to shed some light on that even more because there's a lot of history on this. And Paul
Right. So
was involved, but now he's retired, so I'm kind of taking over. But this project's been ongoing for a while with numerous designs.
yeah. So Kim, it's not for emergencies. It's really because our bylaw really encourages, will strongly recommends that new neighborhoods be connected to existing neighborhoods. So it's really has to do with connectivity and, for, primarily for pedestrians, but also for, vehicular connectivity. And we want to, we have the goal of trying to avoid these neighborhoods that have like dead end roads with cul-de-sacs at the end. That's kind of the intention there.
Is Meadow Run a
Thank you.
private or public road?
Yes, it is.
It's public.
So if you're interested, we had to do a property plat as part of this project, and Joe Flynn's our surveyor. And at the very end on on the third set of plans that you guys have, at the very end, there's a property plat that denotes the boundary. So if you want to look at that, we can take a look at it now. But we definitely have that plan as part of the set to denote that it's a town road, because we want to connect to the sewer, which is a super important component of this. And the sewer is actually the manhole that you see on this plan, where just to the left of where it says Whitewater Circle, that manhole is an existing manhole that we plan on connecting to. So where the red line ties into that manhole at station 1958, they're right at the intersection of Meadow Run and Whitewater Circle. That's a very important component of our project, and we've been working hard with the associations and whatnot to make that connection to the town road.
And is this new road going to be a public or private road?
We're showing it as a 64-foot right of way with a 27-foot road, much like other roads that we've been done recently. So we've been talking to Lisa and Bruce, and I think road width wise and under drain and similar curved road concept, we have we got good feedback on that.
So would
Yes,
this-
so the intention is that the town would take it over as a public road.
Correct.
So
Yeah, and that's and speaking about like what Melinda said, this is a very important component, because if it's not a through road, they will not plow it, even if we build it to public works standards, is my understanding. So that's another super important concept to sort of discuss and have you folks be aware of, because that's probably one of the main driving forces, connectivity, and then having it be a public road so that the plow can go through. I think is a pretty important component to note.
I'd just like to comment that looking through the report that I guess you prepared under the scenic view shed component, I really like the rendering. I assume that's the applicant that did that, but I like that vision, or that visual that's in there, that kind of gives you an idea of what that area will look like post development. It's really nice.
It's really helpful. I agree.
I got to tell you guys, I was really impressed when I saw it. It's the next one. We couldn't find anybody to do this work, and we could not have done this. Let's just lay it right on the table. We could not have made something that looked like this. But at the 11th hour, we found a guy out of Cambridge. And I went out and took a bunch of pictures, and was like, we need this to go in. And, we were like doing a redesign, and we were really rushing to get this in. And yeah, I thought the guy did a fantastic job, but yeah.
Would you mind sharing his name? I'm curious.
Yeah, his name, oh my goodness. It's called, hang on, I gotta turn that now. Oh my God, I'm gonna tell you his name. I'm gonna look it up. It's oh my God. You know what? Digital Medium Solutions is the name of the company.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I can send you his contact information, but I'm gonna tell you his name because I'll find it here. Digital.
All right, that's fine. I was just curious more than anything.
Lincoln Brown's really good, and I know that they've done illustrations. We actually called Lincoln Brown. They didn't call us back, but this guy was recommended. He done a job for us. His name is Nathan Collins.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I also like that he straightened up the telephone poles that are a little crooked in the actual picture.
Yeah, it actually took that picture that says number 5 because we need it for something else. So the one right above it. And then I think he went out and kind of worked with that. But I think he must have taken a better picture because that was from my iPhone. And the other one looks a lot crisper and cleaner. But you know, he spent a whole week on that, which is, yeah, it's an expensive thing to do. It costs a lot of money, but you guys wanted it and we provided it, and the guy did a great job.
Linda, could you go back to the previous map? I have a couple of comments about wetlands.
Sure, if I can find it. There it is.
Two comments. One, the first one is looking at the wetlands report. I noticed that just like we had in one of our other recent ones, the report doesn't say that the wetlands are delineated, but that they use another word. I can't remember whether it was estimated or what. So I have a question of whether these were truly delineated wetlands. And then my second question is, I noticed that the road goes right through the buffer of the one class 2 wetland. And I don't see that there's much way around that, because the houses number 9 through 14 are squished right up against the property boundary, and I don't see how you could broaden that road out any. But anyway, I just want to comment about the road going through the wetland buffer, and I know that that's permissible, but it's not ideal.
So Carl, just to answer your question, we went out and had Evan Fitzgerald delineate it. He has a GPS unit, and then we leave the flags that are still out there. And then I think Tina Heath is the wetland ecologist that met with him, and then she wrote up her multi-page report, kind of giving it the 5-year blessing. That's what we call it, but she writes up a report, and I think we provided that to the town.
Yeah, I've seen that. She doesn't call it delineated though.
Okay.
Right. So Carl, just for clarification, anytime we get a wetlands report, we can assume that those wetlands have been delineated and confirmed. And it does say that in the report. It's just that the actual illustrations in the report are not a delineation. And that's what that statement refers to. It's just the drawings in the report itself are not a delineation. They're a representation of the wetlands.
Okay, but we can be assured that the wetlands as outlined on the developer's plans represent the delineated wetlands.
Yeah, they're survey located. Yes. Yeah.
So go ahead, Carl.
We definitely. I just want to tell you guys, we used to go out and send the survey crew to locate them, but now we actually pay them to have the data. So the wetland ecologist, actually, the person we hire actually has his own GPS now. It's just way more efficient than to send another crew out. So he provides us that information, and then we put it on the plan exactly per the survey located data. That's basically how it works.
Okay, good.
So I guess my question is the same as Carl's, is that the road does go through a significant amount of buffer. And, I know it, like Carl said, it's allowed, but is this going to open up a door for future developments to just say, well, even though it's a class 2 wetlands, we can just go right through that buffer?
So Terry, to answer that question, yeah, the bylaw does permit wetland crossings, and we've often seen road crossings of wetlands, and it's allowed. So I guess obviously if it can be avoided, without impacting the density, that's we always strive for that. This property is pretty constrained, so in a case where something is allowed, the owner / developer is going to, if they can do it, they'll do it. And anyway, yeah, I mean,
yeah, I know they said, oh, go ahead.
Well, and when you say about opening the door, I mean, I guess yeah, it is allowed, roads are allowed to cross, trails are allowed to cross. It's still, you know, there is a very clear, I guess, threshold as far as structures are not allowed. Parking lots are not allowed in the wetland buffer.
Just
So there
seems
is,
like a-
it's,
yeah,
yeah, so
it's
that's,
significant, yeah.
yeah,
And they don't, there's not any kind of like underpasses for wildlife or wet, you know, salamanders or things, that it's not that kind of a wetland where that would be needed.
Or
We spent a lot of time looking at this parcel, and I mean, it's definitely a wetland because it's a low-lying area, but it's a wet mowed field right now if you drive by there. And you know, we have to hire the experts to come out and do the delineation, but to us, that big blue finger that you see cutting through there, then you see number one, the existing dwelling to remain. They have a footing drain on that property. And we believe long-term that it's that 4-inch pipe that flows a little bit of water so their basement doesn't get wet, that sort of has manifested that wetland to look the way it does. So we're lucky in the aspect that we're able to put our gravel wetland centrally located outside of even the associated buffer to the greatest extent. In the central part of right in the center of the plan that you see, that's going to really take the majority of our stormwater from this little development. And then we got just the back half of 9 through 14 and 15 going to that other little pond and a small portion of the road to the right. But looking at this layout, I know that it's delineated wetland, and unfortunately we have to, you know, impact some a little bit of the buffer and very little bit of the actual wetland itself. But first of all, we're at a headwaters area, and it's really the dwelling footing drain that has sort of caused that big long finger to come at us. Otherwise, you know, we probably would be able to put units on that side of the road next to, you know, unit 6, if you will. So when you're looking at, I mean, we can look at that. It's kind of a big black line. Melinda, if you would go to sheet 2 and show them that existing conditions, it shows up even on the aerial.
Okay.
I think you'd have to go to plan sheet 1 or the set 1, and then it'd be sheet 2.
okay, I think that was this, wait a minute.
Yeah, I
That's,
think you're all
this
right.
is,
Oh, maybe it's
okay.
sheet 3. Sorry. Yeah,
okay,
that one.
Yeah. there you
So
go.
you see that big long, that black sort of line there just north of the house? That's their footing drain.
oh, that, wait,
So that footing drain that's just to the west of the wetland is probably a contributor to why that finger sort of, you know, came out that way towards the house, even though it's just to the west of it. We think that was sort of contributing some of the water that sort of made that finger come out, you know, closer to the house. So, I mean, that's what we talked about with the wetlands folks at, you know, out of
oh,
the
I
site.
see.
So anyways, I mean, that's just a little bit of history, but so.
Well, one way you could look at this is that the net effect of your development hopefully will be positive with respect to wetlands if you're going to keep that green hatched area.
Yes, Carl's exactly right. Carl, you are right on. That's what our wetland consultant said. He goes, what you're gonna do is you're gonna trade some of the little bit of impact that you have. We got some buffer impacts, but we got very little wetland impact, which is very looked at as positive. And so you're right, it was tough for us to get that alignment through there. And it is unfortunate that the houses have to be close to the property line, but realistically, if somebody builds on the parcel next door, it's going to be way up higher because of the views most likely. And they're probably going to be nowhere near our boundary line anyways. I mean, just to be practical. So in that aspect, I feel like, you know, we're just trying to get away from the wetland as much as we can. And so that's what we've done here. So we'd like to be impacting and give them a little bit more, but, you know, we find that, you know, a lot of the, you know, condo people are going to use, you know, the open land, you know, behind, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then they're going to have some community gardens, you know, by the pond. And really, you know, that's how it's, you know, they don't have a lot of backyard room. That's very obvious from the plan, but, you know, they're going to be some very nice looking units. And, you know, we got to have the through road. So it really, it kind of leaves us very few outs, you know, to do anything really much different. Like we would like to scoot the road up, you know, further up, but we're really pushing the envelope as hard as we could, looking at the size of our units and their backyards to make all the drainage work. And most likely, we're probably going to modify those walkout units to be garden style, but that's just a small change that we're thinking about doing.
I have a question on the unit 2. You were just talking about how, you know, their yards and things. How much room feet is between number 2 and the buffer?
I think we try to leave like 5 feet.
Okay, and we just had a situation with another development where, you know, people like to mow around their houses.
Yeah.
And if it's too narrow, they tend to encroach into the buffer. And how are you planning on delineating?
Well, it is hard to see, but you've been looking at the view right now, and I'm practically blind, if I'm really being honest. But there's 2 little red dots there right next to unit 2. They're 50 feet apart. I think, no, those might be 25. But you can see those 2 little red things. Those are going to be posts in the ground. And so a mower usually is between 3 and 5 feet. I mean, you can get a 22-inch push mower, but you know, if they're going out there with a big tractor, we feel like, or a big, you know, commercial unit, then you got to really have 5 feet. So we left them 5 feet so they could get by it, but they basically have to get by the unit and those 2 posts that are in the ground to sort of demark that area so they can't go in it. I mean, that's our long-term objectives, and we're going to put little signs on it so that people stay out of it. And it's like, it's on the plan. So sometimes I feel like you guys are pushed in a manner that you shouldn't be. When somebody comes to you and says, well, you know, I'm going to mow more. It's like, well, you saw the plan when you bought it. I mean, that's what it is. So, I mean,
It happens
honestly, like,
all the
I know that you guys have to be diplomatic, and I get it, but I don't know if I have a lot of sympathy for people that buy a house and they saw the plan and they think, oh, I'm going to change it later. It's like, well, you really shouldn't, you know, I mean.
Are they individually mowing do they own their own plot, or is this going to be like
this is going to be condominiumized. So I think, you know, the one person that's mowing is just going to have to know where the boundaries are. I think, you know, it's going to make it a lot easier and probably less likely that, you know, you're going to have problems, is my guess.
So they'll be hiring a company or something?
I would guess, so, yeah, because these are going to be condominiumized. So I think people are just going to live there, and then one person or a company is going to come in and do the mowing. So I would gather that, you know, they're going to be happy because, hey, we don't have to mow that whole field. So
would it be possible on those areas that are tight up against the house, like where Melinda's cursor is now, and maybe over near like unit 6 or something, to use something more permanent than posts, which could be either removed or wrought? Like I'm thinking like boulders or something like that.
I don't think we're opposed to that. I mean, I haven't talked to my clients, and I think they're on here right now. So if they want to speak about that, I mean, I'm all ears. But I did a big project that somebody said that there was, you know, an infringement on the buffer. And then we went out there and showed them these 4x4 cedar posts that were like 12 years old, and they were still in good shape and the signs were still on them. So if you use cedar or pressure treated, they can last a very long time. But, you know, there's always a threat.
You can also cut them down.
So the answer to your question is, if you guys want us to put boulders in addition to, or, you know, whatever, I think we're open to that idea. You know, we can truck in some boulders and put them down.
Right. So Carl, I think, I don't think we've seen a demarcation by just posts alone. I think it's either a split rail fence or boulders is usually what's called for in this case. And, you know, a split rail fence, that's kind of nice, because that's really, it's a really clear boundary for people. And it's really, makes it really clear to people that, especially if it's signed, that, you know, this area beyond is not to be disturbed.
I actually have no disagreement. I'll just point out one thing that I think is pertinent that you might want to hear is, there's a really nice split rail fence that was there 15 years ago on a pond, and now it's like deteriorating and it's in really bad shape. And it's going to cost a lot of money to fix that fence. For just
Carl, I think we can look at boulders or a split rail fence.
But yeah, we can do boulders. Boulders would be, I think, boulders. We're good with that.
Yeah, I think that's another option that's really nice because it's hard to move a boulder and they don't rot.
Perfect.
Yeah.
No, we can do that. We'll bring in some big rocks. Yeah, we'll just make that change on the plan. That's no problem.
Great, thank you. And you can do it as like a, you know, landscaping, natural-ish kind of feature too, to make it look like it's not just a big boulder sitting in the middle of the field or something.
Well, we'll strategically place them on the plan, then we'll go put stakes so that they can put them exactly where we show it on the plan. I mean, that's what we like people to do. If we're gonna certify it, we want to stake it out and then put them exactly where our stakes are. That way they're right per plan. So that's no problem. That's what we're used to doing. I just did it on a project in Williston. We put 38
Right.
posts in. So that's no problem. We'll put rocks in, no problem.
I
Thank
have a question for Scott. Scott, is your company going to manage this neighborhood?
Good question. I'm hoping so.
Pardon me?
I'm hoping so.
No, I'm hoping so. Okay. Well, your company does a good job of managing our neighborhood. So
Thank you.
Melinda, can we go to the findings and recommendations so that we can make a motion?
Mhm.
Yeah, it does look well thought out. Thank you, Carl and Scott.
I tell you, we got a lot of, we got so many layouts. I think we're on layout 18, but I think we got just about everybody on board now. So that's good.
All right. Okay, let's quickly go through the findings first. Okay. Open space, 7 acres of protected open space. No desired trails we don't have to worry about. It is within a significant wildlife habitat area. There are 7 acres, as we saw, of class 2 and class 3 wetlands. I had a quick question about that. Since the class 3 wetlands are non-functional, is there a reason that they were left alone?
Yeah, I mean, we have to deal with the Army Corps. And there's, you know, a threshold there too. And honestly, I just thought, hey, if we can avoid them, let's try to avoid them. But that's the only reason, honestly. Like we actually saw a sketch with units. Like we think we could actually put units because it's that non-functional. But I was trying not to do that if it can be avoided. Okay,
I was just curious.
No, good question.
Okay, let's see. It's also within a primary foreground view shed. It's not anticipated to impact any rare, threatened, or endangered species or unique natural communities, farmlands, special flood hazard areas or streams, and it's considered high risk due to its disturbance of greater than 2 acres of land, as well as the watershed protection buffers. So let's go to the recommendations. All right. Open space shall be clearly delineated on the site plan with total acreage calculated. And we just talked about using boulders as well. Should we put that in there? Does anybody have an opinion?
So Laura, this is open space, not just the wetlands, but just all the open space.
Oh, yes, sorry. I wasn't
yes,
thinking.
and since they hadn't, it was not made totally clear on the site plan what that open space, where it was, what, you know, so
yeah, it's
that's
recommendation number 3 is
yeah
the one you're thinking
right.
of.
You know what? Sorry, I just had a, yeah. Okay, so let's see. 2 is type 3 landscape buffer. Informal planting shall be provided along the eastern boundary where the landscape is currently open meadow, both to enhance the wildlife corridor and to screen the development from the abutting property. And then 3 is all watershed protection buffers must be clearly demarcated on the final plans and on the ground with boulders or fencing. So that is included. Informational signage should be posted along the edge of the buffer to inform the residents of the buffer's purpose and to prevent future disturbance. Any comments on those recommendations?
I think when we spoke very briefly about the number 2, the landscape buffer, would you guys agree when I spoke about just getting furthest to the east possible in areas where, you know, we're really far away from the tree line, that we shouldn't put plantings? Because we're not going to mow anymore in the green area. So I would say the trees would go, like I said, behind the pond on unit 15 maybe. And then maybe in the central part of the pond, you know, above unit 9, 10, like where the pink and blue, I'd like to be able to point on here, but basically the central part of the pond that was shown on that plan, behind that pond would be some trees. And then perhaps some trees behind units 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, you know, kind of, you know, along where the boulders are going to be on the pink line. Because I wouldn't think you'd want them on the property line, because that would just delineate the property line. But I'm open to ideas. I was just throwing that out there. It just seems like the plantings, you probably want them to be on the buffer line. Is that what you'd prefer? Or do you want them to be on the property line of where the tree line is now to augment that tree line?
I would maybe think the property line to, because is that on the top of the screen? That's the property line, the east?
Yeah, the black line is the property line, yeah. And then the existing tree line is just on the other side of it. And obviously, you know, it goes from hardwood to green to softwood, but yeah.
I would think on the property line, I guess. I'm just saying to connect with the forested area there.
That's
And
what
how-
I had envisioned. Was there
That's what
something?
okay.
Yeah, Melinda, was there something that I know it mentioned the adjacent property and providing screening. Did you have a sense of where you envisioned that type 3 buffer being?
Yeah, I had sort of envisioned it somewhere along this property line as well, kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know, more typically, you know, just as a landscape buffer. And also, I mean, it is going to be fairly disconnected from forest up here. So I'm not really looking at it. I don't know what the utility will be as far as the wildlife corridor goes, but it would provide some screening to the abutting property.
Just so we can give you exactly what you want, if I'm reading it correctly from what you say, we'd start kind of on the, you know, where it's really heavily wooded there in the softwoods, and then progress towards Mountain View Road, maybe just like the street standard of 40 feet on center, maybe 5 feet off the property line to make that demarcation. Does that sound about right? Or
There's one problem with putting it on or really close to the property line, and that is if those trees need work or need to come down, if you put it too close to it, you're going to run into conflict with the owners on the other side of the property line. So,
yep, no, I think we should come up with something right now. I mean, I like 25, but I'm open to anything that we can have a discussion about it right now and solve it if you want. I'm fine with that.
So Carl, it says in the recommendation a type 3 landscape buffer. So that's pretty specifically defined in chapter 23 of our the landscaping chapter. And it's basically, it's a mix of trees and shrubs, but it's pretty, you know, the amounts and the distances are pretty well defined in chapter 23. So if you look at that, the definition of type 3 landscape buffer, that'll give you a pretty good idea. But it's sort of like, you know, not like street trees, because that's sort of too formal. Like you want it to make it look sort of natural.
It's supposed to be scruffy. Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as planning in the wetlands, obviously we don't want to, you know, bring equipment and stuff if we're going to be in the real wetland. So I'll talk to our wetland consultant about how we get that done and show it on the plan correctly, so that, you know, we don't have any problems permitting and all that. So
thank you, Melinda. We'll look into that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Let's see what else we got here.
Any further comments on the recommendations?
no, we'll do that type 3, no problem.
I guess just one quick thing is, wasn't there some traffic study there done?
There was, we had to hire someone to do it. Roger did a traffic study, and then he did another traffic study when we did this final layout going through, and it's more advantageous than the cul-de-sac layout that we showed just prior to this.
Okay, and just my thought is, you know, there's going to be the traffic study. I'm not really familiar with all those numbers and things and flow charts. But definitely this is going to put, these new units are going to put more traffic out onto Mountain View. And there's going to be a development at Trinity Baptist. There's one up the road. There's the golf course. And just, I just wonder if that's all being taken into consideration when a traffic study is done. I know you can't look too far out into the future, but and the impact fees, I wasn't quite, does that money go towards improving Mountain View, or is that going to be up to the town to upgrade Mountain View as the amount of cars increase over the years?
So Terry, I can answer the question about impact fees. So the town has a specific list of projects all related to mitigating traffic impacts from new developments. And so that impact fee goes directly towards, it has to by law go directly towards those projects.
So widening Mountain View and putting a bike lane in and.
Yeah, well, I can't speak specifically to the list of projects, but I do know that I believe there's a project on related to Mountain View in that list, and it may be the creation of a bike lane.
Okay, and this road is not, since it's going to be a public road, it's not going to be closed to through traffic, because I can definitely see people wanting to bypass that corner and using this road as a cutoff.
Yeah, it will be a public road.
Okay.
I think because
Assuming, yeah.
we really feel like because there's a slip lane to the right, that's probably very unlikely to happen, but that's yeah.
So I go through there occasionally at 5 o'clock or whatever, and I live at the other end of Mountain View, and I could see I might do that every now and then.
Yeah.
That traffic backs way up on 2A. That's definitely a possibility for people who want to take it right.
I think that's going to be a temptation, especially just like at the golf course road. That's going to go through. People will be using that because Mountain View Road is, at certain times of day, it's a bear to get through.
And on the other side in the morning, like I can imagine myself being tempted to go the other way to get to Mountain View to avoid school buses. Do you know what I mean? So it might be both times of day during like the high commute. Yeah.
Right.
Yep, something to think about.
I'll make a motion, Laura.
Thank you, Reed. Do I hear a second?
Well, I'll move approval of the recommendations.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? So thank you, Carl and Scott. This is well thought out, and thank you for presenting it.
Thank you, Laura, and speaking to all you nice folks. I guess I hadn't been on the commission before, but this is my first time, but you guys did a great job, and we appreciate all the hard work that you guys are doing, and we're going to get those boulders in place, and hopefully we can get this project underway as soon as possible. We thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, so let's go back to Mills Shed. AP 2202.
Yeah, so this, if I'll just introduce this by, if you will recall, a couple of years ago, you were considering working on a bylaw amendment to allow some flexibility in watershed protection buffers where certain property owners had like little to no room around their houses, or in some cases, their properties were entirely within the watershed protection buffer. Previously, there was no flexibility. You could not build like these property owners could not put a backyard shed in, they couldn't, you know, do anything like that. So the bylaw amendment allows some flexibility in exchange for watershed I guess watershed enhancements and buffer enhancements, or putting in stormwater best practices. So we have our first application for a backyard shed under these amended regulations. I don't know if that applicant is here. There's a fellow by the name of Thomas Weaver.
I do see a Thomas Weaver on the call.
Now they just disappeared. So
oh no, okay.
At any rate, it's I can present the application, and I wrote up a little staff report. So the person, Ryan Mills, wants to add a 10 by 12 shed. They have, let's see, they have basically included a narrative and
it looks like they've done
explaining-
some buffer enhancement in the past, which is great.
Yeah, they've done quite a bit of buffer enhancement working with Friends of the Winooski, and they're proposing a little bit more. And you can see the plan here. Let me see if I can. Yeah, there it shows. So this is the location of their proposed shed. And all of this hatched area is where the buffer, well, not exactly that, but where the buffer enhancements are planned. I think this is the existing.
Yeah, the blue's the existing and the green area was the new.
Yeah, and it looks like they've established a no-mow zone, and then they've planted a lot of trees and shrubs. I think they've planted 100 and they're going to add 10 more. And I think that was primarily like when they were considering this, I don't know, back like a year ago, I just said like I think they had wanted to do all of their plantings at the time. And I said, well, why don't you save some for this, so that you can show you're doing additional enhancements. But to me, it's clear they've met that requirement pretty well. It seems like a pretty ideal case for this. And then, yeah, so basically, we've created this new watershed protection buffer waiver, which is what he's asking for. He's asking for a waiver. We've created this checklist, and the criteria are mainly, no other feasible location exists. In this case, his entire property is within the watershed protection buffer. He's explained how he's going to enhance the buffer. The structure has a total area of 900 square feet or less. The footprint is 120 square feet or less, and can be approved by the zoning administrator. Project site has slopes not exceeding 15%, and it's leaving the largest possible buffer. And the buffer is now, it's left a 50-foot buffer. So here's the shed. And then this is the distance to the Allen Brook. So.
So that, this is just to orient us, this is along Old Stage Road, and which crossroad is that?
That's Southridge on the far
Okay.
side, and it's the entrance that's right next to, well, you can see at the bottom left corner, you see Allen Brook crossing underneath. And so that's where
Right.
there's that little paved section of sidewalk going over the giant culvert. And so it's that first entrance to Southridge as you come from Route 2 toward Mountain View.
Yeah, it's actually Turtle Crossing, but it's.
Oh,
Brookside
is it
Drive.
called Turtle Crossing? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brookside Drive is. the
Is it
crossing
Turtle
there.
Crossing or is it Lawnwood or is it the one further south of it?
It's south.
South. It's the first entrance on the left as you come from Route 2 toward Mountain View.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was a property, I think it used to belong to Rainey Tebow, and he sold it. And he divided it, like he used to own, it used to be just one parcel across this parcel here and that parcel here, but it was divided into two parcels. So his parcel only goes to the Allen Brook right here.
Has there been, Linda, has there been any communication with the abutters about this proposal?
No, and there's none required beyond, he's gonna put up his Z sign when he gets his permit. But since this is an administrative permit, there's not a requirement to notice the abutting property owners by mail or anything like that.
I'll just say that I think that this is a perfect example of what at least my thoughts or vision were when we last talked about this waiver option for homeowners who are in watershed buffer zones. I'm looking at this site on Google Earth now, and I drive by that spot at least twice a day, and I'm always looking at it thinking I wish we could get some more buffer or trees in there along that part of the Allen Brook. And I think this is it's a great opportunity to do that. And I see where the applicant is proposing to locate that shed. I minimal impact on the brook, especially offset by all the plantings if they happen. I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah, I agree, Eric. Melinda, does this require a motion or to?
Probably be a good idea because it's going to be similar. Like you're gonna, if you want, you can look at.
Yeah, we're
made up a little
passing
staff report.
recommendations on to the zoning administrator, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, findings and recommendations. Okay. Okay.
Did you have any conversations with them, Melinda, about invasives removal?
I did not.
Okay.
No.
I'll move approval of the recommendations as written.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the recommendations as written signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Thank you.
I am not opposed, but now that I'm reading through the Linda's report and the buffer enhancement, there's a chance that my office may have paid for some of those trees, so I'm going to abstain from voting on this.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Sorry about my puppy there. All right. Let me just check the time, see where we are.
Right on time.
Nice. So we can go on to staff report.
Yeah. Oh, so I guess the first item I was going to ask if anybody went to the Field Naturalist program final presentation and if you had anything to share from that.
So that's Laura's farm?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did go to that and it was a great turnout. There was 20 or so folks in the audience, and the students did a great presentation. I hope that Laura and they are willing to share it with the Conservation Commission and Planning Board and everyone else. It was well put together. They, pulled all this information together and presented, a lot of different options to Laura, findings that they found on the property over the last several months.
One of our guys just started.
Linda, can you? Yeah, thanks.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, so they did a great job. We did that. Folks asked some questions about the property. Then we took a walk around the property, and folks, Jane Dorney was there. There were some UVM folks. Really went out to the hoop houses, and someone that was planting one of the hoop houses spoke. And then we came back around, and I didn't have time to stay for the contra dance and the food, but they had a nice presentation. And yeah, I hope that Laura can use that information and work with the town to see what she can, do there on the property and keep it as a farm. So. And have you heard anything, Melinda, back from Walt and the students?
No, I haven't heard anything back since then.
Yeah, it would be great to get something like the next, the NR 206 to have their report, so you can look through it. And I don't know if they videoed the event. I wasn't really looking behind me. Yeah, so it would be good just to get their slideshow.
I did get the NR 206 materials, which are next on the agenda. Not the graduate students, but the undergraduate students.
So that was the presentation for the Conservation Commission was at Laura's farm. So that's probably, maybe they did not record that, but they.
No.
Yeah.
No, but never mind. I think we're talking about two different things.
I'm talking about the
somewhat related. Yeah, I understand that.
Presentation.
No, yeah, I didn't get their presentation, and yes, it seems like since it was live, it wasn't recorded. So
yeah.
We do have their story maps though.
Oh, from their individual projects?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you send us the link to those story maps?
I did send you a link. I'm actually going to put it out on a Planner's Corner. So I assume you guys all subscribe, so you'll get that.
Yeah. Is there a place for it under our natural resources section of the website or something as well?
I can put it in there.
That would make it easier for us to find again.
Yep.
So I hope Laura, she can use that information to, move forward on, her vision on her farm. I wasn't on any boards or anything when she last approached the town about doing some kind of agritourism there. So don't know what happened, but she's, interested in trying to diversify on the farm. She's a little bit limited because it is a wet piece of land. Mostly a lot of it is in hay fields that she gets hayed. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Terry. All right, I think I can still hear Carl.
No, that's Matt.
Oh, it's Matt. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no.
I can mute myself if you would like, but I'm going to be speaking next, I think.
Yeah, don't worry. Go ahead.
The hazards of working in the office.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to talk about the NR 206?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So the undergraduate students were working on looking at expanding land uses in the ARZD to support agritourism. And they actually did a really nice piece of work. They created this presentation. They also, so basically they developed a survey to distribute throughout town to kind of poll people on their thoughts on expanding land uses, which are quite limited right now in the ARZD. And then they proposed a method of distribution. And the idea is to pass this work on to a following NR 206 class to actually carry out the distribution of the survey, collect responses, and analyze those responses and report on those. So that is the idea. They also did sort of a comparative study of surrounding towns and their sort of corresponding zoning districts, their rural zoning districts, and the regulations within those districts. So they looked at Richmond, they looked at Shelburne, they looked at Stowe, and they looked at South Hero. So they're, they talked a little bit about that. And, I thought it was great that they sort of came up, we came up with the idea for them to kind of look at surrounding towns just to provide some information, provide some examples of how other towns regulate their rural areas. So Shelburne, of course, has Bread and Butter Farm, and they have Shelburne Farms, two great examples of educational, agricultural uses that incorporate education and outdoor recreation, and the Shelburne Vineyard. And then Richmond has some Maple Wind Farm, Owl's Head, and of course the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps. So, and then there's Stowe, has like some examples of kind of outdoor recreational uses, tourism combined with agricultural uses. So it's interesting, the examples that they chose, because in some ways these, especially I'm thinking of Stowe, these towns are, they have similarities, but they're quite different from Williston. But they did a report, which I've linked all their work here. This is the report that they did, and this this is actually a really nice piece of work here. They go through what they found in these other towns, and so then they go through all those, and then basically they have this list of references, and they also developed this plan for a possible future town forum, public forum, to engage residents and local farmers together to kind of talk about this idea of expanding land uses. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a really nice idea that they came up with, to have planners and residents and Williston farmers just kind of discuss the idea, and also maybe having a future NR 206 group lead this, kind of organize and lead this forum. So, and then maybe inviting some.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's always so nice when you get like the winning group of students.
They did a nice job.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Like even the formatting is beautiful. I love the idea of the community forum and having farmers represented in that as well. So I guess this is mostly me just making a comment that I think that idea is a great idea.
Yeah, I agree, and not surprising that Kim beat me to the compliments on this before. This is one of the better student-driven projects that I've seen. They did do a really nice job of it. And just one, I also agree that the community forum is a great idea, and I think that'll be a great next step for this work. But I guess one comment I had was on the burger night reference to Bread and Butter Farm. And I'm looking back at my notes from our conversation at the beginning of this project back in February. This project or something about Ice Farm. Anyway, we were talking about, we don't want these places, the farms we want to support them, but don't want them to turn into carnivals. And burger night at Bread and Butter, I haven't been there in years, but that is a carnival in my mind.
Okay.
That's true. I think that burger night, that's true. But there are other aspects of Bread and Butter that maybe are in line with, it would be, Eric has a good point that it might be like good to parse, like Bread and Butter does burger night. They also do like preschool education, right? Like, so that could be a topic for the community forum of thinking about like, what are we good with in town and what are we maybe not good with, or what aligns with what we're trying to promote and what might not align with what we're trying to promote. Like there could be some like finer grain.
Bread and Butter also has like a farm store,
right,
which has products from all different farms around, and they also have CSA shares.
So there's like a lot of different components that could be offered, and I could imagine like some farm, like almost like here's the range of what these locations offer, and are there some of those offerings that align with the town's goals or with the zoning, or that would be permissible, and some that like might not be permissible. I guess that's what
I know. On the Bread and Butter one, they did a reading through that information. They said that they ran into some stumbling blocks because they hadn't really talked to the neighbors at first, and then they realized there was some issues and they had to work through that. So getting the neighbors involved before something is proposed is good to get your neighbors on board, talk with them.
Yeah, I
Sounds
think
like
what
that's
I
what
recall of Bread and Butter Farm, that burger night started small, but very quickly it got very popular to the point where they were running out of food, and they had traffic management issues and all that. And I think that's where this community forum concept for Williston would be a good starting point for those conversations.
I mean, I guess so it brings up an interesting point, and that's thinking about sort of like these big huge events and carnival like atmosphere, but also thinking about what Catamount currently offers and like some of their races and how big they get. So like, is that sort of, is the intensity of that similar to like a Bread and Butter event? Like, to just make sure that we're treating, that we're sort of looking at these equally, I guess, or treating them equally. I don't know. Maybe
you could have like not necessarily have to pay for a ticket, but get a ticket through, some on the internet, and limit the amount of people. So you have to actually get a ticket, even though it might not cost you anything to attend, but that's one way to limit the amount of parking. You only have so many parking spaces and room for an event, or, a limited number of people. And if you don't have a ticket for the event, you wouldn't be able to.
You can't come park.
Yeah.
I also think that I don't think that we need to say like, oh, we don't want these farms to be able to have blah, blah, blah number of people or blah, blah, blah parking for either Catamount or a place like Laura's as she develops agritourism. I think it's more like, hang on, Nico, please. It's more like if we have a community forum, that should be a question of what the town and community feels is
Yeah,
acceptable or permissible or in line with our values. So I guess in my mind, it's more of like thinking about a way to understand, like maybe we have a community forum and people are like, we'd love a carnival. That sounds fun. I don't know.
The neighbors.
Yeah.
Right. Not probably
Well,
not
they-
the neighbors, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying that like, I don't know what the outcome of that would be, just so much as I think it should be part of the conversation. And I think
Yeah.
that the public forum is like a really good idea and probably the right venue for that conversation.
Right, and it's important to note also the distinction that's made between like a temporary, what we now call a temporary event, what we used to call special event, and what's permitted under zoning. So like you know, all of these very large events we're talking about would need temporary event permits just because of their size, and the sort of the benefit of those is that they're granted by the select board, and they, you know, they can be revoked. Like, in other words, if somebody doesn't abide by the conditions of their special event permit, it's not something that's permanently permitted on their property. Like the next one they propose can be revoked or cannot, you know, may not be granted by the select board if they didn't adhere to the conditions the first time around. So there's a lot more control, I guess, granted by under the special event ordinance or the temporary event ordinance. So I don't know, it's just something to think about.
So right now in town, this is kind of focusing on the agricultural part of town, which right now we have Isham's that's doing a farmer's market and theater. But there's other lands like, you know, the Bruce Farm, and there's Laura's Farm, and there's the Boutans, there's the Disciples. You know, those are potential places possibly for what this would apply to. Degrees have a, you know, parcel of land. So that's what this group, the 206, was focusing on, the agricultural zone. Is that
That's
correct?
correct. Yeah.
And then we also have the ARZD, which you have Adams Farm and Catamount.
Well, that's the same. That's one and the same.
Okay.
The agricultural zone is the ARZD. So
The ARZD, but the RZD. So Adams.
yeah, that's right. So we may want to think of this as not strictly limited to the ARZD. Maybe it, you know, there's various ways to look at this. It could be an amendment to our accessory uses chapter. It could also be something that lives under the ARZD chapter. But you're right that Adams operates in the RZD. Their store wouldn't be permitted today in the RZD. It's an existing non-conforming use. So, you know, yeah, all of these things I think are under consideration.
Okay, so the RZD, they're, you know, just putting it out there. There's the Johnson Farm. There's, you know, North Williston has a couple of farms down there. Some other pieces of land on Mountain View. So those also could fall under this.
Yeah.
So are there any, so I'm just curious, in the past 5 years, let's say, what have been some of the proposals for this area? I know Laura's Farm, but have there been other things?
Well, yeah, we recently got a proposal for like a, you know, camping area. We don't currently allow camping and picnicking, and, you know, so that's something recently that came up. And, you know, basically, yeah, so then there's Laura. She's had some, been proposing some things. There's, let's see, who else? Yeah, I mean, all the Isham stuff. We permitted much of their stuff largely because they have a historic barn and it falls under the historic barn provisions. So, I think that all of this sort of, I don't know, bears sort of revisiting the uses in the ARZD. I think the town plan has a goal in it to support agriculture and to support agritourism, and yet the bylaw doesn't really align with that goal. So just kind of looking at that, is there a way that we can better support basically diversification of agriculture vis-a-vis expanding the land uses or expanding the accessory uses.
I have a question about process as we do this, Melinda, and that is the planning commission would be the one to propose changes to the zoning. Is that right?
Yeah, right. So it would work through the planning commission. I mean, I think initially the conservation commission would draft some proposed amendments, and then it would work through the planning commission. They would look at that, and if that as it works its way through, eventually it would go to the select board, probably along with some other bylaw amendments.
So we would be taking a stab at it and making some recommendations to the planning commission, and then they would be looking at it in the context of all of the zoning.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have another question that's connected to what you were just saying a second ago, Melinda, which is really just if you have a sense of if there are any people who feel that they would not have been able to hold on to their properties were they not allowed, like, do you have a sense of like how much you think that making changes like this would prevent land conversion? And like, is there some way that we can, if you don't have a sense of it, or even if you do, is there some way that we could think about sort of like, not necessarily quantifying that, but describing it? Because I think that's sort of like giving people a sense of how much of a difference this might help with decision making.
Yeah. Well, I think that would be, that would be something I think it could be brought up in the public forum, could be discussed, like sort of anecdotally. I mean, even Isham's who, the town purchased a conservation easement. They've indicated that it's hard to, the way that they've been able to maintain economic viability is through these sort of agritourism uses of their farm. And that is sort of enabled them to kind of, maintain a living on their farm. And, I think there's probably others. I know, that one of the field naturalist students had interviewed some farmers and talked specifically about this issue. I know they talked to Fontaine's, and I think it is challenging. So, but no, I mean, other than sort of anecdotally through like other people, and well, directly, Ishams have said, it's like, this is what enables us to hang on, to keep our land open is having these other ways of getting an income on our farm.
Nico's ride is here, so I have to just step outside and get him in our friend's car. But I think maybe having those stories to present as part of a public forum could be really helpful, even if it was just like a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could think of, just off the top of my head, over in my neighborhood, there's the Boutans that own a large piece of land. There's St. Hilaire's, there's the Degrees. Cyples is protected. Then Melinda, you mentioned the farm, those farms that they had interviewed are down in North Williston on the flat there.
Mhm.
So I would imagine if, people, some of these large landowners that are not in conservation or land trust, had some ideas. Laura's farm, she maybe is in current use, but yeah, so this might be very helpful dialogue, get things going.
Mhm.
Melinda, can you pass on to the class how impressed the Conservation Commission was with their work?
Yeah, totally.
Uh-huh.
Trying to think if there's anything else that they, basically I think Laura had submitted some testimony, and the survey itself, which is hard to, I'm gonna have to figure out how to get it without, because I think you go to it and then you can't really look through it without actually completing it. So
Yeah, you have to take
I'll
the
have to-
survey.
I'll have to figure that out. But anyway, yeah. I will pass that along to them, definitely.
So this,
Um,
this group, the NR 206, really kind of dovetails with the field
Yeah.
naturalist program. And I guess they said right off in the beginning of their presentation that this was a first, that they worked with a private landowner, because usually the field naturalist program is working with towns with their town forests and town-owned lands. So this was kind of a breakaway from their traditional, partners. And I think, if we could get that presentation, or at least the slideshow, I think that would be really helpful. Be able to kind of bring these two together.
Yeah, Terry, maybe you can reach out to Walter if you have his email and
Yeah,
just ask
and-
for it.
Yep, I'll see if he can, and maybe if you can share, Melinda, their individual projects, because that was pretty impressive for the town, for the town. It took me quite a while to go through each. I think there were 8 or
The story maps. Yeah.
yeah, story maps. Yeah, that was a lot of information.
Yeah.
That's very valuable to the town, to all the committees.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll reach out to Walter.
All right. Unless anyone has anything else on the NR 206 class, we can talk about National Trails Day, the event at Catamount.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share with you that Catamount is having an event on National Trails Day, which is June 4th. I believe it's a Saturday from 10 to 3. They're going to have a lot going on. Basically, they're going to have the county forester is going to be there leading a walk. I think Audubon may be there leading a walk. Terry, is that right? Or
Yeah, they've been not having great luck
Yeah.
nailing them down, so I'm not sure if they are or not. I'm going to be at a table.
yeah,
For
there's
the-
going to be a lot of tables there. Richard Tom Foundation, Vermont Mountain Biking Association, Catamount Community Forest committee is going to be there. There's going to be food trucks. The trail manager is going to be leading a walk. There's going to be group bike rides. Anyway, it sounds like a good event. Lake Champlain Basin program is going to be there.
Who knew? I didn't.
Yeah. Trust for Public Land will be there. So anyway, it sounds like a great event, and so encourage everybody to attend, those who can.
I just have a question about, I'm wondering why they're even suggesting a donation. I think that's going to turn a lot of people off. And this is I know the outdoor center is putting this on, but it's a town property. I just think that that's a real, people look at that and say, I'm not going to pay $5 to go. I know it's suggested, but I don't know. I think that was odd.
What are the expenses
Yeah.
to the town for the event? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of coordination time and some logistical challenges.
I don't know. No, none for the town.
Yeah, maybe it's
Um,
the tent, renting the tent or something.
So is that over the donations go to the town or they go to the outdoor family center?
They go to the outdoor family center.
Yeah, so that makes, to me, that makes more sense. Maybe they can
Hmm.
Yeah.
clarify that on the webpage. Donations will go to benefit the outdoor family center or something like that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah,
because
Terry,
people, it's a town-owned piece of land. Why would you want to pay to go there?
Looks like a great event.
Okay.
Yep. And thank you, Terry, for your involvement still with Catamount.
Yeah, it's there, things are happening, especially now that the trails are open and yeah, a lot of people there.
Mhm.
First Wednesday night mountain bike race of the year is tonight.
That's
Are
great.
you racing, Kim?
Oh yeah.
I hope it dries out. It was pretty.
I
got a
don't
lot
know
of
if it's
rain.
going to. And the course this week is like there's a lot of rocks on it. So I made Ben change my tires. It's like I need
Studded
grippier-
tires.
not studded, just like more aggressive tread.
All right. Does anyone have anything else?
I have a couple of things just quickly. I'll just list them off and maybe we can talk about them for next time. But I was hoping we could get some feedback on the town fair, and then also maybe for an upcoming meeting we can do help you, Melinda, prep for the new Melinda whenever that person may come in. And prepare some materials and things, and this development plan that we just reviewed this morning reminded me of the conversation we had back in February about the parcel across the street with the church and discussing development sprawl and weighing habitat wetlands impact versus shed.
Mhm.
I just didn't want that to get lost in staff transition also. But really, I just wanted to get some feedback or hear from you on the town fair. I thought it went pretty well from my perspective.
Yeah, I think it was really successful. A ton of people came out, and it was just a nice way to interact with people in an informal way, and just kind of have conversations with people about stuff that's going on, and just get people's input in just a really informal kind of a sort of friendly way. So from that point, I think the town staff were sort of agree that it was a big success and that we want to continue it in years to come. And thanks to everybody who showed up and helped to, sort of sit at the Conservation Commission and Catamount Forest tables. And it's just nice for people to interact with citizen board members in that way.
How many bags were picked up on Green Up Day?
I think we handed out close to 700 bags, not just on Green Up Day, but a lot of people came beforehand to get bags the week before. But I believe we handed out nearly all of the 700 bags that we got. So that's I think last year we may have handed out 550. So that's a big increase. And I don't know the number of participants. That's sort of hard to gauge. We had a sign-up sheet, but people didn't always fill it out correctly. People just kind of signed up and they didn't indicate how many bags they were taking or how many people in their group. So it's a little bit hard to gauge numbers.
There were a lot of bags the whole week. They were popping up all over the
Yeah.
roadside, so it was good coverage.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I agree with Eric that we should think about and help the next Melinda, organize it instead of leaving it to the planner. And Melinda, thank you. I mean, the informational posters were great. One thing, I had been to the Loggers Expo the day before, and people kept handing me things like little bracelets and stuff. So I gave them to some little kids that came by, and they were so happy. And I was thinking if we had little things that we could hand out, who knows what they could be, like, you can find maybe a salamander at this walk and get them excited about going out with their parents somewhere, or I don't know, just some ideas, but we can talk about that next year.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, Laura, that, some swag. I don't know if we have any budget for swag for the Conservation Commission, but beyond the stickers and things. So I know I'm getting my jobs mixed up, basically on the stickers, tattoos. But anyway, that would be, some other things to attract people and kids to the booth. We can work on that over the next year or so. But
I'll just plug
You know,
temporary tattoos because they are
Yeah.
not plastic. They do not clutter your house. Children think they're amazing.
they go a long ways.
Mhm.
But so what you were just showing on the Catamount webpage for that event on June 4th, one is, and I think I provided these in my comments on the survey, follow-up survey out there. Like, that's what I was thinking would be really neat to head toward for the town fair. Like, get all of those groups that are on the Catamount list and more to the town fair event, to draw more people in. Like, I was thinking, as I was saying, I was thinking, this would would have been great to have the basic program, have a table here, and Lake Champlain Sea Grant, particularly even more so than the basic program, because the Sea Grant has the Raise the Blade campaign going in Williston right now. So that would have been a great opportunity for them to promote that program.
Yeah,
especially as
and
people getting the lawnmowers out now.
right. And I think we discussed kind of having outside partners come in and decided to kind of keep it somewhat small scale for this first town fair and just have like mostly restricted to the town departments and town boards. But I think next year there's a good chance we could definitely scale it up and include some of those outside organizations. I think that would be a great idea.
One idea that came up recently at a Sustainable Williston meeting, I saw some emails about it. I was not at the meeting, but individually, some folks have started doing No Mow May, where they let their lawn go wild for the month of May, and let all the spring flowers come up and such. And so they talked about maybe trying to connect that with Green Up Day to allow people to get signs, borrow signs that say, I'm letting my lawn grow for the month of May, and here's why. And then return them just like people come to get their bags and stuff. So that could be something that could be done around Green Up Day, is to pick up those signs, and they could return them to the town later. So you may hear from other folks in Sustainable Williston about trying to find a way to do that. People are embarrassed to let their lawn grow without explaining to their neighbors why they're letting their lawn grow.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too, Reed. And I gotta say, looking at my lawn right now, I don't know if I could mow it if I waited until
I know.
I know.
That's why.
You should probably have to do a high mow the first time.
When for Raise the Blade, I helped with focus groups for that, and that was one of the predominant findings was that people, it's like keeping up with the Joneses. Like, people would be willing to let their lawn be longer, but except they think it will look bad in relation to the neighbor lawn.
But if they had a sign, at least they could it would explain why, right?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
social aspect was the reason that some
Yeah.
in Sustainable Williston were suggesting a sign to be able to
Yeah.
normalize it and say, if you want to participate in this, you just need, perhaps the town could have signs that people could come and borrow for the month of May and put out, and then maybe it gets their neighbor, oh, okay, I'll put a sign out too and leave mine. And then it's a little bit more acceptable than if it's you're the only one in the neighborhood who's not mowing.
Yeah, I mean, diffusion of innovation theory is like early adopters tend to be like more cosmopolitan, easy to take, like they have an easier time taking a risk, and then they like convince their neighbors and friends. So potentially identifying people that fit into that group and like asking if they would do it first. That's kind of like the extension move.
An interesting thing's happened on the street where I live in Burlington, and that's that so the street where I live, the green belts are too small for trees. So any trees that were planted have died. So it's kind of like a desert, but people have been taking the green belts and planting like pollinator gardens in them. And so that sort of started a trend, and some people have been, taking their front lawns and kind of extending it onto their front lawns. So it's sort of like, an interesting
Making
trend.
a pollinator color belt instead of a green belt.
Right.
Yeah. So I think like finding the influential people, right? The people that like other people might look to, and like having the opposite thing happen where they're like, ooh, the cool kids are all letting their lawns grow. I'm gonna let my lawn grow too. That's the key, the ticket, right?
And we can offer lawnmower blade sharpening courses during May for everybody who's trying to figure out how to mow it come June.
And how to raise the blade, because that like, did you know your lawnmower is adjustable? I think is
right.
Mm-hmm.
Reed Willis has put a comment into the chat suggesting the town work with HOAs about mowing. You can work with a limited number of entities, but potentially educate a large number of residents. It's a good idea.
Yeah, in the campaign, they are also working with the landscaping companies too, because like
I was going to say landscaping companies and property managers have more influence than anybody else, because a lot of the HOAs, the homeowners aren't all that engaged. It's really the boards and the property managers who are making the decisions on what to do in the contracts, at least.
Eric, is my memory correct also that there was a golf course that there was a couple of companies that volunteered to be like demonstration sites, and was one a golf course?
Yeah, that was early on, 4 or so years ago now, I think. I don't recall which golf course, if it was a specific golf course, if it was a golf course consortium. But yeah, I think they did start working with golf courses when they picked up this building. You were involved in that.
I feel like I've seen some raise the blade signs on Williston recreation fields. So I'm guessing that they adopted raise the blade, at least partially.
Yeah, I think so. I just saw one on as I was jogging around the loop last night, actually, right over by the parking lot.
What is the recommended height for people who?
3 inches.
3 inches?
Minimum of 3 or more inches.
A lot of people are doing like 1 inch. If you go by some lawns, really.
Yep.
Yeah, another thing that could be good, I just had these two thoughts in my head, is also for people who bike to the town fair to have like a station set up with somebody who knows about bikes and can show kids how to pump up their bikes and stuff. I don't know, just a thought, because
for like locomotion.
Locomotion. I know a lot of kids who just buy a bike and then they start riding it and don't know that they need to pump up their tires. So, but the other thing is Grow Wild in Burlington is a group that is really promoting the pollinator gardens and in residences and in the city. And that came out of the Vermont Master Naturalist Program. And I just wanted to mention it because if anyone's interested, the Vermont Master Naturalist Program is doing it's called a Muddy Brook program that involves Williston, South Burlington, Heinsberg, Shelburne, and St. George starting this fall. So
Yeah, basically the Champlain Valley Conservation Partnership.
it is.
in
Yeah.
Towns, yeah.
So, or if you know anybody who might be interested, and one of the projects they could do is something maybe even to do with the town fair.
Yeah, so that's actually, now that I think about it, during the transition of conservation planners, that's something to put on your radar, is coming up with potential projects for the Muddy Brook master naturalists. And granted, the project list will be shared among, either will be like a regional list of projects, or will be shared with 5 other towns, but still there may be a few projects that you can think about to put on that list.
Yep.
So I'd like to throw out a comment and also say that we should be thinking about replacing Carl, which could be some big boots to fill. And I know when I first came on, I had been to some meetings. So I don't know if, Carl, you have some ideas of who might replace you or other members. But, when I first started, it was pretty overwhelming to, all the information that you had to kind of get up to speed on. And it would be nice if, someone, could attend a few meetings before. I know, Carl, your last meeting is coming up soon. But yeah, so that might be something to think about.
Reed Willis is
Oh, right.
in attendance, and she has been a stalwart attendant of meetings since, like, I don't know, for the last 2 or 3 years. Is that right?
Okay.
So I don't know, Reed, if you have any interest. But
I'm not especially interested at the moment, and actually I'll probably just continue attending out of interest anyway. But I think it's a great opportunity to draw in somebody else to get involved.
I know.
Reed, are you still our rep on the Williston Valley Park District?
Yes, yes. We just had a meeting last night, actually.
Reed Parker is actually someone who's he was here doing the duck box presentation. I know he's on the energy committee, but he would be maybe somebody to tap into. So anyway, just thoughts, but it's out there. Eric put it out on Front Porch Forum.
Yeah.
Yeah. But some big boots to fill. 35 years, is that right, Carl?
32.
32, okay. That's just as impressive.
Need to fill these old boots with some young blood.
They have a lot to learn. All right, well, it's 9 o'clock. So
I have one just really fast comment.
Go ahead, Kim.
I think that in case folks have not been following, there are some proposed changes to current use which successfully passed the legislature and I think are likely to be signed by the governor. And I just think I just want to say for the commission, Melinda, this is probably for the new person, but at some point, if and when that gets signed as a group, we should talk about what that is going to mean for Williston, both in terms of landowners and any potential. I think we should hear from Ethan if he foresees that changing his availability or time, because it may, my prediction is that it's going to expand who all is eligible for current use to the point that it's going to change foresters. It has the potential to change foresters' distribution of time resources. So just like wanting to say for everyone, like that's, I think Phil Scott's probably going to sign that, and we should think about what that means for us.
Is that part of carbon sequestration? Is that,
it's really that landowners will be able to enroll in current use for the purpose of managing their woodlots for old growth. And so that like there are people who might be interested in enrolling in current use now, except that it requires active management, that which they are not particularly interested in, and so they've elected not to enroll. And that then under the new expansion, some that would that might be more attractive to them. People might choose to enroll with more of like a preservationist sort of bent. And that just has the potential to be like more people enrolled in current use, more work for county foresters.
Mhm.
And so I think we should think about in town, like, are there parcels that, I mean, there are lots of implications, right? It helps people hold on to forested parcels. It might keep parcels out of development. It might mean Ethan has less time for us. There's like sort of like good, bad. What are all the implications for Williston? I think we should
Mhm.
just plan on, not think about it now necessarily, hasn't been signed yet, but plan on thinking about it.
Thank you, Kim. That's really important. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, everyone, have a great weekend. And I know it's a busy time of year, so have fun.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.